Hey KU fans, welcome back to the KU Sports Hour here at KUsports.com. I'm your host, Matt Tate. To my right is Benton Smith, and next to him is Shane Jackson. We're in. Let's start talking.
About what? I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Nah.
Nothing has happened this week. Nothing I can think of related to KU basketball or KU football. I mean, I'm drawing a blank.
So we can talk about the Ravens, really. So
Ravens.
Great. Lamar Jackson MVP.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Shane said yesterday something about the Ravens bye week that I laughed at. Can you remember that?
I think he asked me, or Benton asked me who the Ravens beat or something like that this week.
Yeah.
And I thought he meant like coming up. And I said, yeah, they're playing a bye week, so they're going to win. Or something like that. Yeah.
See, nobody listening laughed.
Yeah.
So it's not on you, it's on me. I shouldn't have set you up for that. I laughed hard when you said it yesterday at the Les Miles press conference, but it was not nearly as funny today.
I don't know. I don't know why you laughed, really, honestly.
Yeah.
That's really what we're talking
It
about.
caught me
here.
off guard.
The funniest part was I didn't know who the Ravens had played less than 24 hours before this question that I sent Shane's way.
Sure.
I was like, who did the Ravens play? And he, of course,
He's looking
natural,
ahead. He's looking ahead.
Yeah. He's like, he watched the game, obviously. He watched them beat Seattle. So he's like, everybody watched this game. He wants to know who they're playing next. No, dude. I didn't watch any football on Sunday.
Well, I didn't either. Chiefs and Broncos was Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I watched that either. I blacked out. I don't know what happened, as did a lot of people. But enough about the NFL, Shane. I love that you tried to hijack this.
I did.
I'm an NFL
Yeah.
guy. You're an NFL guy. Benton has several NFL jerseys. So we're all NFL fans here. But what we're here to talk about is Kansas sports, KU sports, Kansas athletics. And there's some big news. There's a lot of news. Benton, you're right. We'll start with basketball and then move into the football stuff. That 50-48 loss in Austin that was just absolutely nutso, and Benton was there and did a great job covering it. It was fun to watch, fun to see happen, fun to kind of break down, and so we'll get into that in a little bit, plus some reader questions. But off the top of the gate, we've got
Last night. I mean, it's like, finally, right?
Yeah, I'm here's my take on it. I'm totally cool however you want to see it, as long as you don't get too bent out of shape about it, right? Like, if you're someone who hoped that KU would never play Missouri again, good for you. I don't blame you. That would have been cool too. Like, hey, you left us, we're out. Good luck, and you stick to that. But then now that it's happening, you can't be a whiner. I don't think that sounds good. I don't think that looks good. There's no reason for that. If you're someone who says what you just said, and says, hey, about time. This thing should have never gone away. We should have been playing it. It's going to be awesome. Then good for you, too. Just don't whine about any of the things that happened in the past 7 years. That's sort of where I sit. I just don't – look, it's a big deal. I know it was. I know it is. I know it's one of the classic rivalries in all of college athletics, but it's still just a couple of teams playing some games. And it's not worth getting so worked up about like people have here in the last 12 to 24 hours. I think the reality is it's going to be cool when it comes back, right? Next year, a year from this December, there will be a Kansas-Missouri game. It will matter. Both sides will be fired up. It will be packed. Sprint Center will be absolutely hopping. It'll be a regular season game, and that will be fun. It doesn't have to be more serious than that. That's how I feel anyway. Whether you like it or you don't, when it gets here, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think just experiencing that exhibition a couple years back in Sprint Center, when, I mean, both teams were, like, kind of in a really good place heading into that season. Both the teams had good rosters. Both ended up making the tournament. Obviously,
Sure.
Porter had some injury issues that kind of took away from.
That's my favorite thing about that game. Michael Porter and Billy Preston played in that game.
That's right.
What a bizarro world.
Billy Preston played in it.
Yeah.
I don't think this game actually happened.
It might not have, man. It was such a bizarre thing. Yeah, like you look back, I was looking through some photos in our system, and there he was, Billy Preston. I was like, whoa, look at that guy. So
really strange. But no, like, it was a great atmosphere. The game meant absolutely nothing other than the fact that it was for a good cause and raised a ton of money.
Sure.
But I mean, everybody was into it. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun to be there. It was fun to see that kind of buzz that the crowd had. And I mean, people just get excited about this matchup, and I mean, especially for basketball.
Yeah, the cool thing about it too is that you've got a year to build this thing up now too. You know, it's not next month. It's not this season. It's a year away. So all of this craziness about, you know, I think this or we shouldn't have done that, or that'll go away relatively quickly. And then from there it'll be just anticipation and building and building and building. And next season when we get to August or whatever, and even June when the team reports and in August when school starts and practices get going and things like that, people will immediately start looking to, oh my gosh, this is the year KU Missouri play again. Wow, here we go. It's right around the corner. And, you know, it'll just build and build and build, and it should be a pretty cool thing. What I love the most about it, I could take it or leave it, honestly. I'm with you. I think it'll be fun. I think that atmosphere for the showdown for relief was terrific. And more impressive about that was the fact that none of those dudes on either team had ever experienced that rivalry, right? Devontae Graham, that game meant everything to him. He'd never played in it, but he knew what it meant to the fans. He knew what it meant to KU, and so he, you know, proceeded accordingly. But what I love about it most is I think it's cool that the first one's at Sprint Center, and then in year 6 it's at Sprint Center. I'm glad they're not all at Sprint Center. I love that it's going to be on campus again. I love that this game will be twice in Allen Fieldhouse and twice down in Columbia. I mean, that's where it should be. If you're going to bring it back right.
It would have been kind of like disappointing if it had been 6 straight years in Kansas City.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it still would have, you know.
Were you surprised that it was that many games? Like 6 that's a pretty long stretch to commit to. When I first saw it kind of come up last night, I was like, oh, that's cool. They're going to get this thing back going, maybe ease into it.
Right. Yeah, you could have done 3, right? You could have done 1 in each campus and 1 in Sprint Center. But, 6, I really think it'll probably go forever. I mean, well,
why not?
Never say forever. Obviously, we learned that. But I do think, you know, they'll probably just renew it sort of like the Champions Classic is renewed, right? This first 6 years went great, or this first 4 years went great. Let's tack another 4 years onto it, or whatever it is. So, I think that's the best part, though, that the games will be back on campus where they mean something, and where there will be a true home court advantage for these teams. Everybody knows, man, there's nothing cooler than that last game in 2012, KU Missouri. I think one of the biggest crimes in all of college basketball history is that after that game, which was just unbelievable, KU down 19 in the second half, comes all the way back, wins it in overtime, all those historic and just iconic moments. It was such a crime that KU and Missouri didn't play in the Big 12 title game after that in Kansas City. I mean, like, I wanted to see that so bad because
and Mizzou won the Big 12 tournament that year.
Chanted SEC on the way out the door. Went into the tournament as a 2 seed.
It was fun.
Lost to Norfolk State.
Yeah, Norfolk State.
Yeah, in Omaha, where KU was playing.
KU was there
I was sitting courtside watching that game. That Missouri team was talented, man.
It was really good.
So good, and obviously that KU team, very talented as well, reached the title game. So that would have been cool. I hate that didn't happen, but a lot of different faces, a lot of things have changed at both places, and December is also still a long ways away. So who knows what's going to happen between now and then, but we do know that the border war, what is it, Benton?
What?
Is back.
Oh.
Is back.
It's back.
Oh, it's back.
Yeah, you can't just say is back. No one will know what you're talking about.
Border
but if you say
war,
it's back, everybody knows what
I
you're
got
talking
you.
about.
So I tweeted, it's happening.
Oh,
how'd you feel about that?
Man, next level.
Thank you. It's a thing. Like, it's like a whole thing unto itself. It's happening, man. This is a real thing. This is not a drill. Do not sound the alarms. We are live. Shane, what are your thoughts on the border war?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily
young pup.
I know. I didn't necessarily have a strong opinion about it like I feel like most of Twitter did. So I came in thinking I was going to be the calm one out of us 3, but it turns out everybody else is pretty calm about this as well. I don't know. I'm just a fan of good atmospheres, and this game will have that wherever you are at. You guys keep talking about the exhibition game. I remember watching like a Periscope stream of that.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
I wasn't the only one. So people obviously still care about this game. And so I think that'll show itself in the crowd. And I'm a fan of, watching good environments like that, or watching games in good environments.
Great
like
point. Yeah, I like that. That's really all. That's what I kind of said at the top, right? That's all that matters. Let's play good games with good teams that want to compete. And that's what this will be for 6 straight years and probably longer. I talked to Bill Self. Yeah, forever. I talked to Bill Self shortly after it was announced, and I asked him a little bit about his stance. He's very much been an opponent of bringing this thing back, against the idea for years, for 7 years, strongly against. Hey, we don't need to help them out. We don't need to play them.
He would get annoyed when people would bring it up because it would inevitably come up at some point
every year,
every single year.
Absolutely, yeah. And it sounded to me like time took care of some of that. I mean, it's been a while, and he genuinely misses the rivalry. I mean, you don't have to look any more than that Missouri game in Allen Fieldhouse in 2012 to see what this thing meant to him. I mean, watching him throw his hands in the air and roar like he did. I mean, this guy loved that rivalry. For it to be gone is crazy, and maybe initially, digging your feet in is the right move and all that, and I definitely understand why they did it. But I think time took care of some of that. I also think the scheduling aspect, he made it very clear that was a big part of this. I mean, they want to put games that their fans are excited about on the schedule, and a lot of those games are there year after year after year. KU has one of the toughest, most impressive schedules in the country year after year after year, but they play Champions Classic, neutral site. They play some sort of 3-game tournament, neutral site. They play Big East Challenge, SEC Challenge. Every other year, those games will be on the road, that kind of thing. So, by the time those games are all spoken for, which you don't schedule, other people schedule those for you, you're down to 4 or 5 non-conference games that you actually get to have. And so knowing that not all of those non-conference games in Allen Fieldhouse are going to be East Tennessee State, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, those types of games that you have to have. Everybody plays them. You got to have a few of those. Knowing that at least twice in the next 6 years, one of those games is going to be Missouri in Allen Fieldhouse, that adds a lot to KU's schedule. People will talk about it. It will be a hot ticket. People will attend it. People will do whatever they have to get their hands on a ticket to go to that game, and it'll be hyped up big time. So I think those two things for him were the biggest factor here. It was, time took care of it, and this will help our schedule. People have talked on and on and on and on about why would KU do this? It doesn't help KU. It doesn't help KU. It only helps Missouri, and I get that stance. But when you present it this way, this actually helps KU. It puts a marquee game in their building and something that there's no doubt people are going to circle on their calendars.
I never understood that argument, though, that, it doesn't help KU but helps Missouri. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think people just said, look, they need it more than KU does. Missouri does, right?
To boost their computer rankings or
that,
what?
or just national relevance, right? If KU plays Missouri, it's just another game. They're not Duke. They're not Michigan State. They're not Kentucky. They're not, those types of teams that KU plays. Villanova, for goodness sakes, right? For KU, it's just another non-conference opponent, maybe along the lines of what? Stanford? Maybe. I mean, that might be all disrespect to Stanford. Sorry about that. But that, I think that's the theory. Whereas when Missouri gets Kansas on its schedule, that is a marquee game against a blue blood program that Missouri has a tough time getting otherwise. Now, they do play Kentucky because they're in the conference. But, I mean, I just don't think that's worth getting bent out of shape about either way, right?
No way,
I mean, I saw both sides of that, but it's does that really matter? What I want to know, something that I wonder if it will matter is the danger here of restarting this rivalry is people are going to expect it to be what it was. It's not going to be. They are not in the same conference, and they took a 7-year break.
I think when both teams are good, it's going to be heated.
Sure.
Because we saw a little bit of that with the exhibition.
It should be, it should be. But it'll be hard to live up to.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that Thomas Robinson game.
Right.
Nothing's ever going to be like that, I would assume.
No. So. And back in those days, they played them twice. That was part of it. You got them at their place. If you lost that one, you got a chance to come back home and get revenge. Sorry, I spit that out finally. But so I think I thought the same thing with that showdown for relief. Like, don't go in there expecting this to be the old school late '90s KU Missouri. That's just not going to be. Having said that, that game, like you said, Benton, was way cooler than I expected, and so it'll take on a life of its own. I think it'll be something cool. It'll have its own identity.
I think in the on-campus games, I think regardless of even if it's not like both teams ranked or something like that, I think that just it being on campus is going to make it something special.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for one, you got Missouri coming down Fieldhouse. The last time that happened was that epic 2012 game. On the flip side, you've got KU taking its buses and its team and its personnel into Columbia. I mean, incredible tales of what's gone on down there when KU's come to town, from everything just in terms of hardcore cheering to just absolute violence to people throwing batteries and, things like that. So, all that'll be a part of this. That'll be part of the buzz. And so I think it's a cool thing. I think KU fans in time, if you're against it right now, I get it. I understand it. Take a deep breath, go get a coffee, whatever you need to do, and just see if you still feel the same way next October or November when it's actually nearing and just the human nature is to get a little excited about it. I think you will. So, Shane, any final thoughts on the border war? You've been pretty talkative over there.
Absolutely not.
Well said. Well said.
Shane, I wonder, I'll ask you like a K-State
equivalent
question about this. Like, does this automatically become KU's like new marquee rivalry game? Does K-State take a back seat now?
I guess so, just because I'm not sure a lot of fans view K-State in that light. But I think it certainly hurts that this is once a year type of thing. So maybe it's not the same for some fans. I don't know. It is a very good question. My initial reaction would be, yeah, it does take it over. But, the once a season factor, maybe that puts more emphasis on the one game. I don't know. It is a good question, though.
Ben, I mean, you're right, though. You said it about KU and Missouri. It's like if K-State's good, that rivalry won't suffer.
Yeah, and then, I mean, like, the past few years, K-State's been one of the teams kind of in contention for Big 12 titles, so that makes those games all the more important.
Definitely.
And obviously, everyone in Manhattan hates KU with a passion.
Yeah, right.
So those games are intense, and it's a great atmosphere, even if both teams come out and shoot 27% from the floor.
Terrible basketball, and yet it's still in front of an amazing arena. I agree. Yeah, no, I think they can live, sort of coexist in the same space without having to rank them, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially because if Missouri were still in the Big 12 and this was back in there, I think it would be backseat for sure, K-State. But I think they live in their own space now, and they can sort of be what they are, which is something very different and should be. I saw Tim Fitzgerald on Twitter from GoPowerCat.com. He suggested, I believe it was last night or the night that this all came out, he suggested that he challenged K-State to schedule Wichita State and play it on the same day in Sprint Center. So you have like a 2 p.m., matinee, and then you get the marquee game at night.
Wow.
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it's crazy. But if I were K-State and Wichita State, I wouldn't want any part of it. I mean, you're automatically putting yourself on the B side. You're
the 2 p.m. game.
Yeah, you're the also undercard type of game. I mean, you're just not that. What's that going to do for you? I mean, no Kansas and Missouri fans
would air on
go.
ESPN Plus.
Right, there you go, and just outrage everyone. Good point. So I thought it was interesting. That's sunflower power right there. Missouri would be walking into a buzzsaw of 3 Sunflower State teams, loud and proud. But I think probably just stay away. Don't try to nudge your way in there, which is funny.
I'd still be a fan of that though, because obviously this Power and Light district would be a really good vibe, and just having multiple basketball games in one arena. I mean, at any level, I'm a big fan of that as well. So personally, I'd be a fan of that, but I understand why maybe some K-State fans would be like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, you're just all about atmospheres. That's what we're learning here.
That's what, yeah.
You know what makes good atmosphere, Shane? Music. You should listen to some.
Some jazz music, really.
All right, well, real quick, KU opens its 2019-2020 season on Thursday night. A little bit anyway, an exhibition game. Fort Hays State coming to town. These games, they're kind of like NFL preseason games, only not nearly as long and drawn out and boring and miserable.
Yeah,
at least you're real players, right? Yeah, well said. So, KU opens November 5th for real against Duke in not in North Carolina. That would be weird. In New York, but yeah, 2 exhibition games before that. What do you guys expect to see or learn maybe from these exhibition games? Anything?
Probably not, because I feel like you don't even really get to learn about rotations because like everybody's going to play.
Right.
You don't really get to learn about what might challenge this team because they're just going to roll.
Right.
I guess if they came out and there was some glaring issue against a team like Fort Hays State, then you would learn something.
Yeah, right. What if they go out and
shoot? If you're terrible defensively, or
you shoot
sign.
3 for 29 from three-point range,
and you're getting open looks and missing threes. Yeah, so maybe you can learn something.
But I don't know if you learn anything from that. You just panic, right? Like fans would be freaking out for no reason. It's
right.
One game that didn't count, but
I feel pretty confident that Udoka will be just fine inside on both ends of the floor. I feel pretty confident Devon Dotson will blow by people with the ball in his hands. So yeah, I don't know. It's just good to get these kind of behind you so you can go play Duke in that game that I'm sure the players have been looking forward to for months.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If there's one thing you could learn, like, hey, you had a magic wand and they said, hey, you can figure this out. Definitively, you will learn this in these 2 exhibition games. What is it? What do you want to see, both of you, about this team, especially early? They're ranked number 3 in the AP poll. We saw that earlier this week. Seems right. I figured they'd be top 3 all along. Thought they'd be 1 or 2, really.
Really?
3 was not necessarily a surprise, but I thought they could be 1 or 2 is what I should say. So they're right there, and they're obviously loaded. They have depth. They have talent. They have experience. There's a lot of things to like about this team. Is there one thing you want to learn about early?
Well, probably for me, I'm curious about their 3-point shooting. Where it's going to come from. Is Dotson, really, really better? So because it could be a major issue for the team.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, these like summer camp things that we watch aren't real basketball,
no.
But it was a little concerning. I thought that Jalen Wilson really struggled from 3.
Yeah, what's funny?
They got to campus the day before.
The day before, right? And he just missed everything in that
so
one scrimmage.
That's no knock against him, but I'm just like, yeah, where's the shooting on this team?
They continue to say throughout the summer and throughout really the first couple of months of practices, that he is still absolutely a knockdown shooter who can get hot. So they must be seeing that in practice. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. It's unfair probably to gauge his whole contribution off of just that one game. It was a tough day for him.
It was.
But kind of a whirlwind weekend and the whole bit. So Shane, what do you want to learn?
What I thought was interesting from KU Basketball Media Day was when Bill Self talked about if Silvio can guard on the perimeter.
Yeah,
and that's going to
sure.
dictate what type of team they are, basically. If they can play small, or they're going to be able to, or if they can play big, or they'll have to play small, and it goes to that. So I don't think you'll learn that in exhibition play because I'm not sure that Fort Hays State or Pittsburgh State. I just had to look that up. I'll be honest, I didn't know if they have a 4 that could really challenge Silvio. But it will be interesting to see early on how he does on the perimeter defending wise, because that could be a thing that ultimately determines how KU's going to do this year.
Well, look, those teams are going to play that way, though, right? They're going to play with probably 4 undersized guys and maybe 1 big guy. So if anything, you might get a real look at it. It's not going to be the type of body that Silvio's going to see necessarily, but he might have to, if they want to take a look at it, he might have to chase around a 6'5" guy out there who can shoot it and move and pass and cut and things like that, which that'd be great. I don't blame Self for wondering how much and how well Silvio will do out there, but that guy is a good athlete. He is so driven, and I can't see him not doing well. Maybe not for 30 minutes. If he has to play 30 minutes guarding a wing type of player, that could end up getting exposed a little bit. But if he's got to do it for 10 or 12 minutes, I think he can absolutely hold his own.
So what's the lineup look like if Silvio is basically guarding a 3?
Yeah, there's a chance that's it. I mean, they might play all 3 of their bigs, man. I know. That's
a huge lineup.
I mean, right. Silvio, McCormick, and Udoka. That's insane.
It is.
I mean, you would punish everybody physically anyway, and then I would assume at that point you have Ochai and Devon Dotson.
Right. That would make the most sense.
So if it's not that, and you want to bring Silvio off the bench, or you want to bring McCormick off the bench and slide Silvio up, which would probably be more likely, then I think the automatic answer is that Garrett jumps in there, right? I mean, Self did say Isaiah Moss has the potential to play starter type minutes, if not be a starter. Based on the fact that he's been a little injured so far, I don't see him being a starter. But he is a good defensive player. He is their best shooter probably. If that becomes an issue like you're talking about, there could be a real need for that. But again, it doesn't matter. You don't have to start him to get contributions from him. I mean, he can, you can put Marcus Garrett out there who you trust with your life, and then you can make sure that Isaiah Moss gets 25 minutes. Or whatever you have to do. So, I think that's a good one, though. I mean, watching Silvio in these exhibition games will be a lot of fun just because the guy gets to play again, and that'll be cool. I mean, last year at this time was when they found out he wasn't playing, and they decided to hold him out before he was suspended. And they basically announced it, right before the exhibition opener. We're not playing him. We're going to hold him out until we get this figured out. And that was an entire year, as we found out. So, it's wild how fast that goes. I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but yeah, it'll be interesting. You're right. I mean, those aren't going to be formidable foes that come in here and physically impose anything, but they'll play hard, and KU will have to match that at the very least, or else Self will be like, we're not very good, guys. We don't defend. We made shots and we got lucky and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting, but it is game week. Real quick, we don't have probably time to do a full Q&A 25 question thing about KU basketball this year. So I'm just gonna do one. I want to know, where's this team gonna go? How good are they gonna be? Where are they gonna be in March? What's the ceiling, and not just the ceiling of potential, but what do you think is going to happen? Well, both of you.
Whoa. I'll just start, Shane. I know
that's a lot of pressure.
You're eager to jump right out there. They're obviously going to win the Big 12. They're going to get back on track in that department. If everybody's healthy, they should have a good March run. The roster is deep. It seems to be deep. The big men that we've already talked about, if all three of those guys are healthy, it doesn't matter if you're rotating in McCormick or whatever you end up doing, whatever your team looks like in March. They're going to have the size to, have advantages on the glass, make it difficult for opponents to score inside. The guys they have on the wing, I think, can defend the three-point line, or they look like they should be able to.
Yeah, I think this team has a chance to take a really huge step defensively.
Team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like their pieces. I mean, I obviously haven't seen them really play yet,
right.
So I don't know what it's going to look like, but I anticipate it being a team that's capable of, making a Final Four type of run.
Shane?
Well, obviously based off their preseason ranking, I mean, there's high expectations around this team, but there was last year, and I don't think we addressed enough concerns probably at the beginning of the year than we probably should have, just because we were just like, oh, this team's going to walk through the Big 12, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, obviously, you didn't know a lot of things. Yeah. And Udoka, of course, but you didn't know what they'd get from Charlie Moore, or KJ Lawson, or those types of guys. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, they kind of, because of the Kansas factor, they got a benefit of a doubt, much more than they should have going into last season. But again, if Udoka's there and Silvio's there, they're not that different than this year's team, really.
That's true. Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. But what's their run? What do you think?
Yeah, and so there are questions about this team, like Silvio guarding the perimeter, like if they can find shooting. But I think for me, if Ochai takes a big leap this year, I mean, that's a difference maker. That's potentially the difference from being a Final Four team to maybe losing the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. I mean, if he takes a huge leap. I mean, that's another weapon that other teams just don't have an answer for. So I think for me, that's probably what it's going to come down to, at least at this point in the year, whether or not KU's going to make a Final Four run or not.
Sure. Yeah, I love their schedule. I think it gets them ready. I like the conference. I think there's some good teams. I mean, they will win it. I agree with that, but I don't think it'll be, just a bunch of easy blowout wins. There might be some. We didn't see any of those last year, hardly, except for when they oddly blew out Texas Tech.
So strange.
but there will be a few perhaps, but for the most part, they're going to have to play every night from November 5th on, and I think this team's built that way. I like their mindset. I like where they're at with their motivation and their hunger, and the team chemistry seems to be off the charts. I think this is a team that, if they stay healthy, there's no reason they don't make the Final Four. I mean, I know that's always a crapshoot and never can be something you take for granted, but I think they have every single piece of the puzzle that you would want for a team that can make that kind of run. So, I mean, it's a team that should expect to be in Atlanta at the end of the year, and their road, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like Tulsa and St. Louis are the first round options.
Oh, okay.
Which are both close. They've fared well in both cities. And then I think the Midwest bracket is Indy, which isn't that far. Provided they're one of the top seeds, they'd probably go to Indy, and that'd be a pretty favorable road. It's no like Wichita, Kansas City, or Tulsa, Kansas City, or whatever, but it's pretty close.
Safe to say they won't be playing in Salt Lake City.
I'd be shocked. Yeah, I'd be shocked. And we had a good time in Salt Lake, and it was a cool place to check out. Yeah. So I'm glad they did. But I'd be shocked if they're shipped away like that. Almost as shocked as I was when they still had a chance to play in Kansas City last year.
So strange.
All right, speaking of strange, let's shift gears here and talk KU football. 50-48 on the wrong end of a wild score in Austin, Texas. Benton was there.
I'm still reeling.
I bet you are. I mean, you filed your story. I think the kick went through at 10:01, and you had your story filed at 10:02. What a wild scene. I mean, just in every way. Like, the first thing that mattered the most was, what is this thing going to look like under Brent Dearman? Brent Dearman, sorry. Yep. We now know. Here's the question. Is it fair to say Brent Dearman's the kind of guy with this offense and this personnel that he can just walk out there and throw up 48 points every week? I mean, isn't that a risk right now? Isn't that like some fans are probably on that level?
I hope they're not thinking that.
They shouldn't be, but it's hard not to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess 48 is the number, right? They ran this type of offense at Boston College. Yeah. They ran it at Texas, 48 both times.
On the road. They're going to score 70 this week.
48 points per game, guaranteed. No, I mean, like, that Texas defense has suffered injuries, like, throughout the year. They were playing a lot of underclassmen, starting a lot of underclassmen. So I think that was a huge factor. Like, the Texas defense hasn't been good this season, and they've lost guys week after week after week. So it's not, I don't think it's like an accurate snapshot of what you should expect from the offense. But all the things that you did see from the offense were so encouraging, I would think, that I think people are way more interested in this homecoming game against Texas Tech than they ever imagined they would have been, right?
All of a sudden, like, homecoming matters. People are like, let's win the homecoming game. For the last 10 years, no one even knew when the homecoming game was, right? I mean, that's significant. I agree. This is a big week. They have a chance to really grab some attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got most of the college football nation's attention just by that game being so insane, right? Because, I mean, obviously a lot of people weren't able to watch the game with it being on the Longhorn Network, but those score updates come across on any college football game you're watching, and if you see KU just took the lead at Texas with 1:11 to play.
Or even in the second quarter, people were saying that. Like, oh, wow, they were down 14-3, now they're up? Whoa, what's going on down there?
First time they had led in Austin since 1997. I mean,
man, I was a younger man. That is a long time ago. Fresh out of high school. Unbelievable. But I mean, significant stuff. All right, Benton, so you've been down to Austin a few times, right? And seen some games down there.
Yeah, as you have done as well.
I have,
through the years.
man.
You've probably been there for a lot worse games than I have. Actually.
I was there for a game when the KU football offense did not even cross midfield until the final minutes of the fourth quarter. They didn't win.
They didn't win
that game? They didn't win
that
game, no. I was also there. I don't know when else I was there.
Yeah, I mean, that one would stand out, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like an all-time low type of game until last year's game at TCU, or was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago at TCU when the offense had negative yardage going into the fourth quarter.
Sure.
And finished with, I think, 21 total yards. Rough.
Big quarter. Big quarter. But anyway, my point is, you know, they even flashed a graphic up during the game. I mean, these scores for KU Austin over the last decade have just been beat downs.
Ugly. Yeah.
And yet here this one was, like we just mentioned, Kansas leading in the first half, Kansas leading with 1:11 to go. I mean, This was certainly a different scene. I know that, you know, you weren't going aisle by aisle selling beer and talking to all the fans there, but did you get a sense for the home crowd really like panicking during this game, especially late in the fourth?
I mean, I just think the way that the game just kind of went sideways in the fourth quarter.
Great word.
With both teams just like, all right, here we go. Let's score. We're going to score. We're going to answer with a score. And it's just back and forth.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what ESPN had that crazy stat where it was like the first time since 1937 that two Power 5 teams had both scored 24 points in the fourth quarter.
You would not expect that to be Kansas.
No, absolutely not.
I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, it was nuts. And, I mean, yeah, I thought it was a great atmosphere. Like, I mean, you've been to some games where, like, you know, you're, oh, man, I get to cover KU at Oklahoma. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Nope. Because the fans don't care. And
Next thing you know, Samaje Perine sets an NCAA record in the rain.
For 9,000 rushing yards.
Not cool. Saw him at a burger joint after that. Tom Keegan loves this story.
He loves it.
Saw him at a burger joint. He looked like the most refreshed human being on the planet. The reason? Because KU didn't tackle him.
Right.
Tom loves that story.
But yeah, I mean, you've covered KU football at Texas, you know, and it's one of those games where like the home crowd basically is not caring about
for sure, man,
because they know what the outcome is going to be.
Absolutely,
and, like, the opponent isn't interesting to them. I actually didn't get that sense this year.
Cool.
And I mean, it could have gone that way if KU hadn't, you know, come out and put on a show worthy of, you know, creating that environment. But I mean, it was a good crowd, like from opening kickoff. So that alone was a change for me. So I think that tells you about what the fan base is feeling about Texas this year.
Big time. That's been a part of
it. That OU loss.
Yeah.
But I mean, once the game got into crunch time and it was back and forth, and I mean, I think the sense that you got was, you know, no one knew what was going to happen in this game, because I, for one, thought it was completely over once Texas went up 10. You know, they block the extra point, get to score 2, and then they go right down the field and add another 7. I thought, all right, game over.
Yeah, when it should have been tied.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But I mean, once KU just responds to that, and you know, they obviously go ahead with a 2-point conversion with 1:11 left. I mean, I think fans were, you know, nervous as hell. You know, they didn't know what was going to happen in that game. It was a great environment.
Imagine that, right? You're Texas fans. You got your burnt orange on. You're hype. It's a beautiful day in Austin. Sun's shining. You're tailgating all day for a 6 o'clock kickoff. I mean, it just doesn't get better than that. You're going to beat the crap out of some team later. You know it. You're feeling good. And then the next thing you know, you're losing, and there's this quarterback in white who's throwing horns down at you, and he's trucking your DBs and running over guys. Right. And I mean, like, what a scene, man. I mean, that is you know, KU didn't win the game, and obviously the Texas fans got out of there high-fiving each other and feeling like they survived a scare, but that is something that they have not seen from Kansas, and I think that again, that is just, you have to back it up this week, but that is a sign of progress, and you latch on to all those signs that you can if you're KU football right now. So, you know, I just think, again, that effort only means something if you go out and take care of this win, and get Texas Tech at your place. And if you do that, now all of a sudden, even though you've only won one game in a row, the streak, right, it would feel kind of like you've won 2 in a row. And then you got K-State coming in here the following week, a winnable game perhaps. You could put a little stretch together that would be not only remembered but also probably pretty significant toward taking this program where they hope to take it.
Yeah,
so,
it would feel like a real turning point.
Absolutely,
for the program.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just when they beat Texas a couple years ago, the one where Beatty got the extension basically off of that win.
Yeah.
People tried to force that into being a turning point, and there was some momentum that came from it, but it was sort of hollow, right?
Right.
I mean, it was a trash Texas team.
Texas played terribly. I think they had 6 turnovers.
KU tried to give them the game before they won it,
right.
and Texas couldn't take it. You know, just
totally different feel.
Right? And that's
outcome too, but totally different feel.
True.
How KU showed in that game.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts from the scene, from being on site in Austin?
I think one of the things I'll probably always remember is you mentioned Carter Stanley kind of lowering his head and trucking a DB.
He loves it.
Yeah, I mean, people who cover Texas were not ready to see that because, like, in the press box, as soon as he did that, I mean, I think at least 6 or 7 people sitting behind me up there were just like, "Oh!" I mean, they were like shocked.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Carter Stanley doesn't look like that type of quarterback.
No.
You know, he's not built like Tim Tebow or Cam Newton or somebody like that, right?
Right.
You know?
Not even a little bit.
Kind of a standard athletic college quarterback. But he
point
plays
guard.
He plays with that mentality.
Yeah, right.
And that's what his teammates have always loved about him, and now they're loving him even more because I mean he's really firing on all cylinders and playing to his potential. Finally unlocked under Brent Tierman. I mean he's had a strange career. I mean you kind of feel bad for him that he's only getting like a 6-game window of being set up for this type of success.
No question about it. Shane, any questions for Benton before we move on to reader questions? See what I did there?
What was the toughest part about covering a game like this? Probably the insane deadline, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think I was supposed to have my copy in at 10, and I mean, the game ended up being a 4-hour game, right? So, I mean, usually you have a little bit of wiggle room, like, all right, the game goes final, I can kind of maybe throw in a couple of things I didn't think of as I'm kind of typing. But no, I mean, like, that's the strangest part of covering a game like that on deadline is, like, you want to get as much of this information in as possible, and, like, the information won't stop flying in your face because, like, these teams just keep going up and down the field, answering scores with scores.
And you didn't know what either of them meant.
Yeah,
I mean, like, what does this score mean? Is this team going to win now?
Yeah,
well, no, now this team just,
right. Yeah, like I referenced, like, once they went up 10, I was like, okay, this is a KU loss. This is what I'm going to start kind of building the story around, this huge turning point. But then that ended up being like a footnote. This crazy thing happened before 7 other crazy things happened. So, yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I think I told you guys this earlier, but I mean, I've never had that much fun covering a KU football game, or like enjoyed watching the game / reporting on it.
Did you watch any play of that final 10-play drive by Texas, or were you writing from KU taking the lead there?
Yeah, I was.
These are good questions.
Yeah, these are really good.
You should be a reporter.
That's the question I want to know.
I saw barely any of it. Like, I would be typing, and then I could kind of get a sense that the ball had been snapped, and I'd look up to see what would happen, and I'd go right back to typing. Because I mean, it obviously had the feel of a game that was going to come down to the last play of the game. And it obviously did.
Yeah, I would love to see that kick be 45, 48 yards, somewhere in there.
33 seemed a little easy.
I mean, right?
They have a good kicker.
Yeah. And you just figure at that point he's going to make it. Anything can happen with kicking anywhere, but especially in college. And so it's still certainly possible. Maybe KU had a field goal block drawn up that they've been waiting on or something. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But 33 is a pretty makeable kick. Anything 40 and beyond, 42 even, 45, like I said, I mean, that would have added some drama to it for sure. Yeah. And obviously KU would have felt better about his chances the farther back he was. But
KU probably felt like maybe the kick should have been from farther back because they felt like maybe the clock had some trouble getting started there.
Yeah, you wrote about that this week. I mean, we got a chance to hear Les talk about it a little bit on Monday. He didn't moan and groan about it, but it was significant that he said he's going to talk to the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, he said, like, he's maybe experienced some hometown clock operators in his day that have either started that clock a little sooner than they're supposed to, or maybe held on to that and kept it from running. And that was the case. I mean, there was one play in particular right after Ellinger had to scramble and picked up a first down. So obviously, clock stops, right? First down, you got to move the chains, you got to set the ball. And then, the official has to kind of motion, all right, we're good to go.
Shane, you don't have to write these down. You're not an official.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
But, I mean, like, the clock didn't start until the snap came.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was at least, just being generous, like 2.5 or 3 seconds that you save. And so their last timeout came with 8 seconds left, right?
And then they ran another play. See,
then they ran another play. So you don't get a chance
changes.
to run.
Yeah,
you don't get a chance to get in that extra play, those extra 6 yards.
Is that what it was? 6 yards? Yeah.
So nothing huge. But
no, but that's the difference between 33 and 39 or 40.
Right.
Again, any you can back that up, the more interesting it becomes. It's interesting and good for Les, man. I mean, it's not the BCS Mangino rant by any means, but it's a head coach fighting for this program and standing up and saying, hey, we demand to be respected and treated fairly. And,
so
and it's not going to change anything.
Yeah, nothing's going to come of this where it's like, oh, we're going to have to overturn this outcome.
Right.
Texas, you now lost this game.
You lost.
Anything close to that. But, I mean, yeah, like you said, that's probably the best sign is that he's standing up for like, all right, we kind of got jobbed on this particular scenario. So
yeah, interesting. All right, well, let's move on to those reader questions. All this basketball action happening and the season overlap being upon us almost. We don't have as much time for the questions, but we can probably get 5 or 6 in very easily. And if we didn't get to yours this week, please keep them coming. We'll have some time for sure to get to as many as possible the rest of the year, the rest of the season, and then it'll be basketball question time. Hopefully Benton will send out the tweet then too.
I don't know. You might have more followers. I mean, you obviously have more followers.
I'm a big deal.
Yeah. So maybe you should so that you can get all those replies.
I'll retweet it. I think I can be bothered to do that. All right. What's up first?
Yeah. Let's start with this one from Kazo. I like the actual tweet begins with question.
Speculation.
Not speculate was used by somebody.
That was last
week,
which
I respected. Again this week.
Yeah,
someone brought it back.
Must have been listening. Somebody too during the game gave us a shout out for our KU Sports Hour talk and
really?
Something referenced watchable football. Like you and Benton say, watchable, and they called you Action Jackson in the tweet.
Yeah.
That's right.
This was during the Texas game?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It was
or after.
I believe Kyle Coffey, who I think is the first question, right?
He's one of them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he basically said, hey, it was after the game, after the outcome, and we were discussing, the status of this being a moral victory and if people should appreciate that and accept it or if they should hate it or what. And he said, like you and Action Jackson and Benton Smith say, watchable football. That's what I'm here for. That's what I want to see, and this is what it was.
That's awesome.
And it was cool to see the fan reaction on Twitter, man. People were, you mentioned this a minute ago, Benton, but people were fired up. They were like, that was fun. Let's do that again.
Right.
and that's after a loss. That tells you something, man. It really does. A good step. So what was the first question?
So anyway, we're not going to speculate here, but we're actually going to field a question. Is this the biggest moral victory week in KU football history? Now, that might be tough because, I mean, as much as we have paid attention to this program, you were covering before I was, we haven't been around for the history of it. We have a good sense about things, but I don't think
we do.
You don't have a moral victory that's talked about decades later. Moral victories kind of
they just get you through the moment.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I agree. I'm going
to
say yes.
It is historic
in the history of the program. Why not be bold?
So Kazo said, would love to hear you guys discuss this. Probably yes, because of recency bias. But when you think about all the moral victories over the years, it's a great question. So, I mean, Tate, like I mentioned, you covered this team for how many seasons before?
7.
Okay, and then this is my
6, maybe.
Okay.
7, 6 or 7.
This is my 4th season.
Felt like
doing
70.
It. But this one to me feels just wildly different because, like, when do you even talk about KU being in a shootout?
Right.
Let alone one at Texas, a top 15 team that's, has legitimately one of the better offenses in the country. I mean, that's a moral victory. And you wrote a column on this a couple of days ago. Moral victories are obviously no fun. If you're a fan, if you're a player, if you're a coach, I think you might have wrote that they suck.
That was my lead. They do suck,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you shouldn't embrace them when they're there. They can get you through some tough times, man. And there is no tougher time than Kansas football over the last 10 years. So, I think we were talking about this earlier too. There have been so many games that KU's either been in or even won. Not so many, sorry. But some of the games that KU's either been in or won over the last decade, so many times that is a result of the opponent no-showing, right? KU caught them on a bad day. They turned it over 6 times, or it was an 11 a.m. game and it was cold and they didn't want to be there, and so KU caught them off guard or whatever. And
that's how most of their Big 12 victories have come in the past 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. And this wasn't that. So to me, that's where this is significant. Had they won this game, it would have been because they outplayed Texas and took the victory, and that would have been significant. They didn't. They didn't have more points. Everybody knows that by now. Yeah. But you still can take something from that. You can still say, look, we put it to these guys and push them to the final snap of the game, and that feels good.
KU led on the scoreboard
until the end.
Until that kick went through and the clock's hit 0.
Yeah, so there's moral victory status there that feels really good. The one area where they did succeed in something, and you can actually take this as a legit victory, is going for 2, man. I mean, the fact that they did that, the coaching staff did that, and these players saw them say, we want to win this game. We want to put our best play out there and take this victory. The defense didn't end up holding up its end of the bargain there, but that's such a victory for this program, for the big picture, for the foundation. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with wins and losses, but that is a win, man. That is so huge for the building of what they're trying to do here. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, we don't know going back to the 70s and 60s and before that, but for now, this feels like the biggest moral victory in a long, long time. And I mean, I grew up in Lawrence. I came here in '88. I've been around, so. Even before the time I was covering the program, I was around it and knew what was going on. And this is up there. But again, and I said this before, that moral victory, you can get through the week on it. You can get through a tough loss and you can hold your head high and all that. But it only matters if you follow it up with something that then produces something good. And that would be a win against Texas Tech on homecoming. I mean, then your moral victory is worth something. If you go lay an egg in this one, it won't matter, and no one will talk about it ever again.
Yeah, while you were, I think you referenced the 2-point conversion late, and it just jogged my memory that there was a KU fan who was tweeting at me. I think maybe was it early in the fourth quarter? It was the second half, I know, and it was basically like, and I looked it up while you were talking just now. His name was Matt at Matt13Jayhawk. I had to shout him out because he tweeted to me, just FYI, if you want to start on your story, Kansas is going to win on a 2-point conversion.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's funny, And then it basically almost happened.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, you did start your story.
Yeah, and I had to start my story regardless.
That is awesome, man.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to Matt because he saw the future.
Matt's, man.
He just,
they're unstoppable. Matt. They are unstoppable.
It's your burner account, isn't it?
All right, what's next? Let's get Shane involved over there.
All right.
He's itching.
This is a good Shane Jackson, Action Jackson question.
Solid.
And it's from Kyle Coffey, who Shane knows personally.
God, he loves that guy. Best friends.
No toss power or toss dive plays in this game. Does Les give the keys to Dearman from this point on?
I think you have to, if he hasn't already, because you put up 48 points in his debut as a Power 5 play caller. And you can say all you want about Texas defense isn't good. They had injuries and all that, but they played LSU. They played Oklahoma. Nobody else has put up 48 points on Texas defense this year. So that's saying something the way KU played. That specifically is something that you point to why Dearman was so effective. He tried different things, and he was able to go away from the I formation power toss. He was still using fullback, but you're using fullback as a blocker. You're putting Puka Williams in motion, and you're doing all these different things, and you're not sticking just to one specific way of running an offense.
Well, that was it, right? The whole issue with Les Kenning was vanilla and predictable. And none of that was vanilla or predictable on Saturday night. I mean, that you had Texas trying to keep up instead of trying to impose themselves on you. Like they were, I mean, Puka, man, like it was such a good thing to see, in his first game with Dearman running the show, basically, that not only did he get put in the right spots to be used well, but he ran so hard. I mean, some of those runs, even right up the middle, he was making guys miss like he's done all year, but it wasn't in the backfield, finally. And you know, the 16-yard touchdown that basically set up the 2-point conversion, right? That was ridiculous. I mean, and it wasn't even his best run of the night, but it was like they got down to the 16, and they've got some momentum, and hey, if they can just punch it in, they can tie this thing up. And in one play, he's in the end zone. And that guy, man, the Dearman Carter Stanley match is really nice because Carter Stanley fits him so well, and vice versa. But it was super encouraging to see Dearman use Puka the way he should be used, and the way he looked like he was used most of last year. I mean, that's such a great start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the keys were already handed over to Dearman.
Good point.
It seemed like it was just based on the plays that he ran, and this all the different looks that they were able to do. And Dearman is reacting to things that he's seeing during the game, and making adjustments. And great. I mean, you couldn't ask. I mean, you obviously could have won. That would have been the better debut. But I mean, great debut
from a pure offensive standpoint, right? Yeah. No, I mean, at this point, you make a couple of spares. You give him one to keep in his office. You get one of those hide-a-key things and put it under the car.
He has all the keys.
He's got all the keys, and you do not want him to lose the keys. So you make about 15 of them and make sure he knows where he can get one at all times, because he has put some life into this offense, and they're just getting started. That's the thing. I mean, they're midway through the season, obviously, but him in this role, this is still new. I think there's reason to think that this could keep trending toward the right direction and going up and up and up and up and getting better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to score 48 points every.
You don't think they're going to score 96 in the final game of the season?
Give them time. Better put up 96 against Baylor.
Awesome.
No, but yeah, obviously they benefited from that Texas defense being banged up and playing underclassmen. But it's still a promising debut, and I mean, I think that kind of leads into this next question from Dave
See
Harris.
What he did there, Shane?
Transition. I love it.
Oh, man, Shane's blown away by transitions. Dave Harris asks, when will it be safe to believe? I recognize progress, but would love to see 3 to 4 of these performances in a row. So, I mean, we've kind of hit on this,
That's
right?
The key.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything if you come out and just lay an egg against Texas Tech. So, and I mean, if you're talking 3 or 4 in a row where it's competitive, comes down to, the final minute. If you're a KU fan, I know you want to see wins, but what if there are 3 or 4 games in a row like this and KU wins 1 or 2 of those?
Or even doesn't win any, honestly. I mean, even if they don't win any, if they can play like this, whether it's 48 points or not, but just be in it to the end.
Yeah.
You should feel great about that at the end of the year, even if they're 2-10. And I don't think they will be. I think they're going to win another game or two. But even that would be enough, I think. I mean, because think about KU at K-State last year, right? They had a chance to win that game. Some would say should have even won that game, right? The ball comes out of Bender's hand late, and had a guy open, had Puka wide open on a little nice route that would have.
How did you remember?
He probably would have gained 30 some yards on that play, and it would have been interesting. I don't remember the final score at all, but
guy's named Matt.
Yeah, impressive guys. But my point is, KU could have won that game. They were in it to the end. That's what you want. But that game sucked.
Oh, it was a terrible
game. That game was horribly played by both teams.
Yeah.
Coached poorly. I mean, just bad football out there. And so that you have to be able to kind of differentiate between, hey, we were in a game. That's got to be good, right? No, not if the game sucked. But a game like this Texas game, we were in it because we played well, and that was cool. And if they keep doing that the rest of the year, then believe your face off, man. Why wouldn't you? I mean, next year it's going to be a whole different set of problems. They're going to need a quarterback again. They're losing guys on both lines. It's going to be a dramatically different looking football team next year. But culturally, foundation will be set. And I think you can move forward if these types of efforts continue, win or lose. I think you can move forward feeling good about it. And look, the reality is if these types of efforts continue, it'll break at some point. They will win. Right. They're not going to play 5 in a row just like this and lose them all. Yeah. One of them will go their way. So that kind of takes care of itself. But I just think that they're on the cusp. You got to see it again. If they go out and lose this game 41-7 against Texas Tech, I wouldn't believe.
No,
I'd be incredibly disappointed at that point.
I can't imagine that being the case. Like, I'm honestly, should we give a little spoiler alert?
Do it.
I'm expecting KU to win this game. The Texas Tech defense hasn't been good this year.
Their arms.
That was the ocean waves. Did you hear that?
Oh. Wow, amazing sound effects. But yeah, I mean, like, if KU loses this game to Tech, I think it would be because it's another shootout and the KU defense just has too many issues, right? I mean, I don't expect the offense to come out and let's go back in time and run that stuff that Les Kenning liked. That's not going to happen.
They threw that stuff away, man. Yeah. No,
Brent Dearman set that thing on fire.
They will be fired up. This team will be fired up as a whole. They play better at home. There's a lot of reasons to go out to that game on Saturday. There's a lot of reasons to expect good results.
Daryl Stuckey will get his name up there in the Ring of Honor. That's another reason.
Such a big reason.
If you're a KU football fan.
Such a big reason. They don't make him better than Stuckey, man.
Well,
good dude.
Good for him that he gets to do this at a game that will probably be entertaining and enjoyable for KU football fans.
Sure.
That's not a guarantee with KU football games.
Has not been. All right, let's take 2 more and get out of here.
All right. This next one is from @KUSteveH, but his Twitter name, I thought.
Oh, I know him. Oh, I know.
You know him?
Yeah. I don't know him personally, but I know.
You're aware
I know he recently changed his Twitter handle
to Fire Elway in all caps.
All caps.
I thought that might hit home.
Yeah.
For you.
we've had some Twitter communication, and he's a Broncos fan as well, and he's speaking the truth, my man.
Well, I think Fire Elway was kind of joking with this question, but I liked it anyway.
Fire Elway. I hope he comes up and says hi to you at a game and introduces himself as Fire
Elway. Is Jeff Long working on a contract extension yet for Miles and Dearman? So I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of the fact that
maybe not less. He's got a pretty nice contract.
But Dearman, you got to lock him in for the next 20 years?
I would say so, right?
But I mean, David Beatty got an extension after that fluke of a Texas win, and this loss is actually more impressive for KU than that KU win.
Well said.
Against Texas.
That should be the headline of this podcast. This loss was more impressive than your win by Benton A. Smith.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think this just shows how excited people are about the future of this program because of Les Miles, and they've been excited about Les Miles, and they've kind of
definitely endured
the Les Kenning offense that kind of kept reappearing for whatever reasons. But now they've seen what KU can look like under Brent Dearman calling the offense, and it has people's attention and makes them want to watch football.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking extension right now, but if this continues,
they literally just signed it
right
2 weeks ago.
That's true. But if this continues, I don't think it's crazy to talk it in the offseason. For Dearman, certainly. Like,
rework it.
How does this look to you? Do you want to change anything? Because we want you to be here, period.
Yeah.
We want you to be here under Les. We want you to be here after Les. We want you to be here whatever you want to do. If you want to hire all the Miles family and have them as staff members instead of just players, do it. We just want you to be here. So whatever you want, let's talk about it. Well, and Dearman's not that kind of guy either. He's not going to go into Jeff Long's office after the season if they average 38 points the rest of the way and say, "Hey, can we talk?" He's going to be coaching football. He's going to be working on offense. He's going to, he feels very fortunate to be in this position. He's 34 years old, right? That's a pretty good spot for a 34-year-old football coach to be in. And so he's getting this opportunity because of Jeff Long and because of Les Miles. And I believe that this is that loyalty means a lot to this guy. I mean, maybe it's just the Southern accent that drips off of him, sort of like the Jerry Maguire thing when Cush's father shakes Jerry Maguire's hand and says, "My word's as strong as oak." And then they changed and went with a different agent and screwed Jerry Maguire over. I'm still not over it.
Wow. Jerry Maguire reference here.
That's the 90s, man. That is definitely the 90s. But I mean, it's loyalty is a big thing, it seems like. And I think that's part of the reason that this whole thing went down. And I think Dearman, as long as things are happy in his world, I think he would want to be here. So you facilitate that however you can.
Well, Shane, didn't you say that you saw somebody tweet out, like maybe after the game, like talking about maybe, joking obviously, but Brent Dearman coaching waiting type of thing?
I mean, a lot of fans were saying this, but also like there was a national writer, I believe, I can't remember who it was specifically, but it was like 5 and 6 years he's the head coach. Like he's head coach and waiting until then. Book it.
Sign me up.
And
I'd sign it today.
In theory, that probably sounds good. And obviously it's just one game, and obviously it may not look like this every single game. But if it did, there is no way in 5 or 6 years he's still here. Like unless you are paying him
That's a long time to wait, right?
Yes. So no, I agree. Kind of what Matt was saying. If the offense looks like this in a couple weeks still, I think you do have to renegotiate his contract to keep him here because he's making $250,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the base, and then there's a lot of incentives.
Yeah,
there's get him more money.
There's OC's making a lot more money than that. If his offense is looking like this for the rest of the season, you're going to have to pay more money to keep him from getting other calls.
Yeah, because I mean, if you happen to be in charge of an SEC football program and you really like what Brent Dearman has done, and maybe there's some connection. I mean, in the SEC, they gladly buy out those contracts.
Absolutely.
Like on the regular. So time for a couple more?
One more. This is it.
More question.
Final.
Make it a
from
good one.
a guy you might know. Do you know his name?
Frank Saunders.
What was that?
Frank Saunders.
That's not
Frankie!
Oh, there it is. Frank Saunders, of course, with some questions. We only got time for one, unfortunately, Frank. But it's a good one, as usual. Had a question about Liam Jones. Liam is touted as the more powerful distance kicker, but he struggled to keep place kicks in bounds, and his field goal attempt and extra point attempt have been noteworthy. Is Coach Miles sticking with him? So obviously, pretty significant issue at Texas when you get an extra point blocked and a field goal blocked. Both those things happened to Liam Jones, and a lot of his kickoffs were kind of headed toward the sideline. I mean, the opening kickoff was basically fielded out of bounds. So there have been some issues, but I think the thing is that I think Liam Jones has kind of shown enough to the coaching staff that he is. I mean, they can't just grab some random kicker from off waivers, like, oh, well, I actually like this guy better. They have a very limited number of players who actually can kick field goals and extra points, and I think Liam Jones is the best option they have. That's not to say they wouldn't go away from him if he, came out and really struggled this week against Tech, but I think that they trust him more than anybody else is kind of my take on that. And obviously the issues with those kicks getting blocked, that you can't really put that directly on Liam Jones.
Yeah, if they had someone they trusted more, he would be kicking field goals in Week 9, like of the college football season. That's the simple truth of it. I mean, like you said, the blocks were not his fault, but there was a graphic before in the beginning of that Texas game that he was over 3 on kicks over 40 or more. So I think the only thing it changes is down the stretch, and fans would be welcome to it, is that you just got to be more aggressive in those situations. Between the 40s, maybe go for it a little bit more rather than settling for the field goal. Just because field position alone, I mean, if you miss that and your chances of missing it are more, then you're giving bad field position from the start for your defense. So I would say that's the only thing that can change from going forward this year. Maybe next year you're talking about something different. But yeah, if they had a better kicker option, someone else would be kicking field goals.
And he did kick a 46-yarder in that game to improve to, I'm going to go ahead and do that math for you. It was 0 for 3. He hit 1 for 4.
There we go.
It was a big one too.
Yeah.
25%.
Right? It made it 40 to 33.
Yeah.
After having an extra point blocked.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's a big kick. And Les has shown, I think, if we've learned something, that he's willing to stick with guys. He wants guys to play with confidence and to play, with that attitude that, hey, this is my spot and I'm going to work through this or that or whatever it is. And, we've only seen it for 7 games, so we don't know that for sure. But it certainly seems like that's his MO at this point with his players and how he treats them. So that's pretty significant. Any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here? It's a lot going on with KU these days. Basketball stuff, football stuff. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Any final thoughts, Shane?
Yeah. So what I thought was interesting was before the game, they interviewed Tom Herman and they were asking, "What do you do? You've never seen this OC. How do you defend that?
What do you do about Kansas? What do you do?"
And he's like,
"So cool.
We're just gonna keep it simple, and stuff like that." He's like, "We don't have a lot of tape on them." Well, that changes now. There's tape on what KU's offense looked like, and so it'll be interesting to see how KU responds. It's part of gaining, keeping that momentum, all that, but also just the expectations are different. In that game, KU was 21-point underdogs. Now they're 3.5-point underdogs. They're expected to be in this game this week, and anything short of that is a disappointment for this team.
Great point, Benton.
Yeah, I just think it's a good time of year if you're a KU fan. I think we kind of talked about this earlier, and you pointed out this is a 2019 kind of exclusive feeling for late October, right?
Sure.
Because generally, if you're a KU fan, you're like, all right, I watched a few of these football games, but basketball season's about to tip off. Let's go.
Right.
And the football just exits your mind completely.
It'd be so easy, too, with this team because KU's basketball team's ranked 3rd in the country, and they're loaded. Go. So, people could have done that after Coastal Carolina.
Absolutely.
And Les has done enough to bring them back. The players have done enough to bring them back. Carter Stanley has done enough to bring them back, and all that's significant. So
yeah, I mean, I think people are genuinely interested in this KU Texas Tech game, a game between two losing teams this year because of just what KU showed at Texas. So I mean, that's pretty unique that KU fans would be excited for a football game like this and excited for basketball season at the same time. That hasn't happened around here in a while.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think that's that in itself is sort of a good sign of progress, right? I mean, because the administration, the coaching staff, they all said before this season began, come support us. And people definitely are. So it's up to them to continue to live up to that end of it. But people have come to Memorial Stadium. People have paid attention and are talking on talk radio and message boards and Twitter and things like that about Kansas football, and people are excited about it. So that keeps the ball in their court. You got to keep putting a good product out there, and it is obvious now that if you put a good product out there, people will pay attention to it. And if you win, they'll pay attention even more. So I mean, if they think you nailed it.
If they win this home game against Texas Tech, then you have K-State coming here the next weekend. It might be the best environment we've seen in that stadium in a long time.
It could be packed because you'll have a lot of K-State fans trying to get in too, and it could be packed. That's a great point. We'll end on that one. That was your KU Sports Hour for this week. For Shane Action Jackson and Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tate. Thanks for checking out this episode, and we will talk to you guys again real soon on another episode of the KU Sports Hour.